This isn't inconsistent with Pope Francis. This might be inconsistent with tradition, but this is consistent for Pope Francis.
Welcome to our update with Church Militant on the news within the church and the culture. We've got Hunter Bradford. Welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show, my friend. What's going on in the world, the culture, and in the church? Talk to me.
Great to be on. Thank you.
Great.
So we have a Biden initiative that he actually launched back in April. But the reason that it's in the news today in 2022 is because several congressmen have taken the Biden administration to task. So this initiative is he's granting money to any organizations that want to pitch their tent and support atheists, humanists, and actually it's about quote unquote religious freedom. It's about tolerance. And this is coming from a fake Catholic. This is coming from an American president. Now, if we remember the Constitution, it recognizes God as creator and giver of rights that are inalienable, that cannot be taken away by the government. And this is a leader of a government that is promoting abroad across the pond over there, atheism, humanism, and actually even so, infidelity to certain religions.
Pathetic. You know, I'll tell you personally what makes Joe Biden more dangerous than most people, than most politicians, is that he's a baptized Catholic.
Yes.
And everything that he does in the spirit of Judas Iscariot. He's got a Judas spirit that just plagues him. Everything he does it subtly to undermine the Catholic faith, as he carries a rosary in his pocket, as he takes photo ops, going to Mass on Sundays. I'll tell you what's the reason Biden is worse than most people is I could deal with somebody like, Richard Dawkins or, some of these Philip Pullman, some of these atheists that'll tell you, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. And here's why. But Joe Biden, who's probably an atheist himself,
right?
He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's playing the part of a Catholic, which makes him more dangerous. And Hunter, what you just said right now, this is a direct violation of the worst commandment, the first commandment. Promoting atheism offends God. To break the first commandment is the worst of all 10. Pachamama, promoting atheism. Biden is offending God. And again, he's an old man. His judgment is right around the corner. It's not going to look good unless he repents.
Jesse, I actually watched a little clip of Biden earlier today answering a question of a reporter about the overturning of Roe. And he said, you know what? Roe upheld the idea, embraced by all religions of all time, saying that, we really don't know when life begins. And he actually, in defense of that argument, he attempted to quote Aquinas of all people.
Sad. Wow. Pathetic. And you know what's the worst part about this, Hunter, in my humble opinion, and I'm not in management, I'm in sales, that the magisterial teachings of the church are not being proclaimed to show him that he should be repenting. It's guys like you and I, lay people, pointing this out. That's not right.
Yeah,
exactly.
and a few bishops. No, Pope Francis should be thunderously denouncing what he said, correcting him.
That's right. Reparation, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pope Francis should be thunderously applauding the Roe versus Wade decision.
Yep.
But again, we hear silence across the pond. That pains me as a Catholic. What's the next item there, Hunter?
Well, someone who has, I wouldn't say he's thunderously proclaimed the truth, but he has proclaimed the truth, is Cardinal Sarah. Recently, in an interview with a French newspaper on July 1st, he said a truth that really isn't breaking news. I think 150 years ago, this would have been like, yeah, tell me something I don't know. But he says, priesthood is about saving souls. It's not about saving someone from, a hotter climate. It's not about saving someone from the sin of recycling. It's not about environmentalism, but it's about saving someone from hell. I mean, the good news is that Jesus Christ entered upon the scene and actually gave us an escape hatch, gave us an exit so that when we die, we don't automatically go to hell, which was our case, our situation beforehand. But as Sarah says, many priests today don't care about souls because I don't think they believe in hell, if much less know about hell.
Well said.
For us as Catholics, our goal is to get to heaven, so we focus on the salvation of the soul. Not that we don't take care of our bodies. Obviously, we try to eat right and exercise, and we know that,
of course,
that Christ will raise our bodies on the last day as well. But for the left, if you notice, for them, their religion is nature worship. It's the worship of Mother Earth, and actually, that comes from pagan religions. The worship of the earth. They call it in many pagan religions Gaia. In Mexico, the Aztecs called Mother Earth Tonantu. So there's different pagan cultures call the earth by some type of name. They name it by some type of a deity. But Americans, the liberals in this country, they've fallen into that paganism. The rejection of God makes them want to look to something to start worshiping, and they're worshiping, as St. Paul says in Romans chapter 1, they worship the created order versus the creator himself.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Last thing, so Pope Francis had an interview with Reuters on July 2nd, just four days ago, and actually said that he plans on he plans on appointing women to be on the Congregation for Bishops. Now, that's important because the Congregation for Bishops is responsible for picking the next couple bishops. So in addition to having Cardinal Supich and Cardinal Tobin on the Congregation for Bishops, people you don't want to be in charge of picking the next couple leaders of the church, now Pope Francis says, hey, well, if I can't ordain them, if I can't make them bishops, I at least want women to have a say in who's picking the next bishops of the church.
Wow.
That's very sad. And those women that are going to be picked, for a fact they're going to be progressives. There's no question about it. Yep.
This isn't new for Pope Francis.
That's a political thing.
Yeah, no, he appointed Natalie Beckard. She's a French nun. Pope Francis, appointed her co-undersecretary for the Synod of Bishops.
Yep, second in command.
So this isn't inconsistent with Pope Francis. This might be inconsistent with tradition, but this is consistent for Pope Francis.
This is exactly what you would call the era of modernism. A lot of the things that we see happening today that are coming from Pope Francis' pontificate, and I say this with respect, he's the Pope, okay, just so you know, I'll put that out there. He's the Pope. Yes. As soon as that white smoke went up, okay, he's the 267th Pope or whatever number we're at right now.
Right.
But the fact is, when you look at the Old Testament, I've got a chart in my other room that got all the Old Testament, the kings of Israel and Judah. And they were sanctioned by God. They governed the Old Testament people of God. The vast majority of them were bad. Manasseh and Ahaz, the vast majority of the kings that ran with the authority of God, even at the time of Christ, you had Caiaphas, you had King Herod. They had lawful authority by God. Even Jesus said he said to Caiaphas, you would have no authority over me if it was not given to you from above. Mm-hmm. So the point that I'm making, just because you have lawful authority from God doesn't mean that the person themselves is a virtuous person or a person that's doing the right thing. And again, just look at the Old Testament. 90% of the kings of Judah and Israel were wicked, and yet they still had the authority from God.
Absolutely. We've had some teenage popes. We've had some just womanizing popes. We've had some just really bad apples in our history. I do think we've recently been spoiled. I think of Pope St. Pius X. I think of Pope Leo XIII. I think of Pope Pius XII. We've got a lot of good recent ones not ultra recently, but when you think of church history, it's relatively recently. But historically, overall, there have been some extremely bad apples. So if we're true churchmen, if we're true sons of the church, this isn't exactly new territory when it comes to that aspect.
Hunter, let me jump in. I'm going to be with you guys in August at your event on evangelization. Can you share a little bit why people should sign up for that and how they can do that?
Yes. Call to action convention, August 19th to 21st here in Detroit, Michigan. We've got a load of amazing panelists, amazing speakers coming to give you the tools. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, in the church, and you should be angry about that. But what do you do with that anger? How do you make that concrete? How do you turn that into practical terms, day to day? That's what you're going to get at the Call to Action Convention, August 19th to the 21st here in Detroit, Michigan.
And people can sign up by going to your website, correct?
Yes, that's right. CM Resistance, and then once you get on that site, you'll find the Call to Action Convention. That's
Excellent.
Right.
And I'll tell you why this is so important, that conference, because the Catholic Church is a big battleship, but the ship is taking water right now, so we need all hands on deck to bail water.
Yep.
Well,
no, you're absolutely.
Hunter, anything else you want to share before we let you go? Because I always like to promote what you guys have as resources on studying your Catholic faith.
Well, I think there's a lot of great premium content on our website. Obviously, you have our flagship program, The One True Faith, hosted by Michael. But you have a lot of other good shows. You have Marian Moment, Episode 2. You have a bunch of other premium content like FBI's, the Faith-Based Investigations. I've personally seen those. Those are great, too.
Great. Well, Mike, I just want to thank you, Hunter, for joining us here each week here at Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
Terry and Jesse, thank you.